So we've actually had a lot less schedule changes this year, but this Fridays always get weird in second semester because Friday creative start. But now instead of Friday creative start, we adjusted the schedule and everything else. So now it's Friday creative option, and it's at the end of the day. We used to have it at the beginning of the day, but that's why this year this is a brand new schedule that we're trying. So you'll go from alpha to creative start to beta, then your middle of the day, then beta then gamma, middle of the day, delta, Friday creative option. So the whole schedule has just shifted up because we removed foundations.
Yay!
Next week, we'll have all the t-shirts out so you guys can pick sizes. Those are the color that they're going to be, and they're super soft. They're like really nice.
Oh, I have one of those.
Yeah. So we wrapped up yesterday finishing the true-false section, and now we want to look at this image where we have a straight line and a right angle. Now I want you to all imagine this on your desk. So take the bottom of your desk as your straight line, and take your page of notes as the right angle. Now why can I say take your page of notes as the right angle? Well, not because it's straight. Sebastian?
It represents the square of 90 degrees.
What represents the square of 90 degrees? What part of your paper? The corner, right? So if you have the edge of your desk, say the edge of my smartboard, and you lay your paper like this, you've got a 90-degree angle up against a straight line, just like they have here. Now notice, I can turn my page and make my right angle smaller, or I could turn my page this way and make my left angle smaller. So this is not fixed. This could actually turn. Imagine that it's like the corner of your page on the edge of your desk.
Is it still
So
a right
let's-
angle if it goes left?
Yeah, I mean, if it is 90 degrees, it's a right angle. So, I got two different questions here. They're asking, must this always be true? I want to ask, can it be true? And then will it always be true? So, if you imagine that paper on your desk with the corner, could this angle over here, angle 1, and this angle over here, could they be equal? What? Yeah. And what would they be if they were equal? So let's think about this for a second. We've got a straight line with the edge of your desk, right? When we straight line, this is the edge of your desk.
Yeah.
So here's your desk. And here's your paper. So if I think about all the way around this, how far is that, Carol? 180 degrees. So if my paper took up 90 of the degrees, I'm going to say that these are equal. Brady, what are those going to be?
45.
They would each be 45. Now, here's the tough question, though. Will that always happen?
No.
No.
As soon as I turn my paper at all, one angle is going to get bigger, one angle is going to get smaller. So this can happen, but not always. So we're going to put can, but not always. In an image like that, that could happen, but not always. Yeah.
It could only happen once.
So we have 180 degrees total to make up the straight line. You with me on that? Then, if we look at our paper, the corner of that being 90 degrees, we know that degree measure. So this, right in the middle, is 90 degrees. If we take that away from the 180, how many degrees do I have left over? 90. Then if I split that evenly between the two angles, I divide by 2 and I find out that they're each 45. Make sense? Sweet. Any other questions on that first one? Part 1.
Oh, I realized I probably shouldn't have written in the
Yeah, if you wrote in there, that's okay, but you're going to have to imagine a couple other
Yeah.
situations.
I'm guessing the other ones are harder. Or
So, if I think about, and actually what we just discussed will be great for this, if I think about adding angles 1 and 3, they would then equal the measure of angle 2.
Yeah.
Now think about the other situations though. What if this is tiny and this is big? What if this is tiny and this is big? So think for a second. I got to get out my cards. Not gotten there yet today. This is a quick start to the day, I'll tell you guys that. Not just quick for you guys.
If I don't get called today, I'll
Sarah, what do you think? Come. If I think about the sum of 1 and 3, So this guy and this guy adding up to equal angle 2. Do you think that'd be true? Why? Yeah. The thing that has to stay true is my 90 degrees. So no matter, even if I made this angle 1 degree, what if I made angle 1 1 degree? If I turn my paper all the way so it almost disappears, Caleb, what would angle 3 be? Ooh,
Wait.
you're right.
89 degrees.
And that would be really hard to see that it's not a right angle. Because 89 degrees is so close to a right angle, if you tried to look at it, your brain would tell you that it was a right angle, but that's why I tell you guys, don't just trust what you see, trust what you're told. And if you saw something like this on your homework that said, this is 1 degree, this is 90 degrees, even though this doesn't look like it, mathematically, this would have to be 89. Does that make sense? That you can't always just trust your eyes.
Yeah.
You have to imagine what would happen. So this is always true.
It's kind of like when you're doing like perimeter. You have to look at the things on the side. You can't just automatically assume that the other side is the same side.
Yeah, depending on the shape. And then think about question 3 for a moment. On your own. So take a second. Think about question 3 here. If angle 3 is acute, then angle 1 is obtuse. If angle 3 is acute, angle 1 is obtuse. I'm going to use cards now. I just got to check. Who knows what's up? So, Leah, can you give me an acute degree measure that angle 3 could be? 40. Perfect. Love it. This could be 40 degrees. If that's 40 degrees, then Leah, do you know what angle 1 would be? 50. Is this true? That angle 1's obtuse? What's it mean to be obtuse? Yeah, it means that your angle size actually is between 90 and 180, because it does actually have to be smaller than 180. But guys, if this thing in total equals 180, and we already took away the 90, the sum of these angles is only 90. There's no way that one of them can be bigger than 90, because together they only equal 90. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, what about it?
No.
You're saying no to be a 7th grader?
No.
So, this can never be true. In this image, this is never going to be true. Sebastian?
I also said, like, if 1 is obtuse, doesn't that mean, like, there can't be, if 1 is obtuse, doesn't that mean that you can't make a right angle at all?
Yeah, if these was obtuse, this right angle could not exist. It would, and then you'd probably only have 2 angles, because if we made one of them obtuse, let's say it was like this, and this is your angle 3, now it's obtuse, well, what's left over here is less than 90 degrees.
It would crush one.
Caleb?
With the, like, 89 degrees thing and how it looks like a right angle, don't just look for the box.
Yeah, if it doesn't have a box, you cannot assume. Now, it could not have a box and we get to a point where we prove that it's 90 degrees and then we can give it the box. But if it doesn't start with a box, you cannot assume that it's 90. And that's why here we can assume that it's 90 because it's got the box. Now, has anyone ever heard of crop circles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who here thinks that aliens might have something to do with it?
Do you?
Yeah, honestly, okay, so mathematically speaking, this is not like I'm crazy. I mean, I am crazy, but this is talking about math. So mathematically speaking, the odds of us being the only life forms, I'm not talking about intelligent or looking like humans, I don't care about any of that, but the odds of us being the only life forms in our galaxy is super, super duper uncommon. Like,
Because it's false. Because there's also
Zero.
like lions.
well, no, I'm talking our planet. So I get like our planet, we know all the life forms on it. But there like almost has to, and there's no evidence of this yet, but there almost has to be other life out there. Just speaking from probability standpoint. I don't have any evidence to back this up, but just from probability standpoint, But there are things on Earth that we can't necessarily explain. And back in the days, one thing that you're probably learning from Mrs. Pettigrew is back in the days before we understood a lot of science, what would we attribute things to? The gods, right? We had gods of the sea, gods of nature, gods of whatever. We had everything. But as we learned science, we learned how to describe these things and understand them. There's still some things that don't quite make sense. Like out in the desert, a giant ant being formed by mounds of the desert soil. This is a real satellite image. I forget what desert this is in. Now, I'm pretty sure they know how this was formed. I think it was an old Indian, like some old ancient tribe made this. But there are different things that are pretty inexplicable. And if you look up crop circles, you can make crop circles, like as a person. You take a board with ropes, and you flatten down the straw or the corn or whatever as you go. But there's some really crazy ones. So just throwing that out there, Solomon.
Isn't it true that if one thing happened, then it's guaranteed to happen? Wasn't there like a theory?
So you can't say, isn't it true?
No,
We can talk about a theory, like theorizing. If it happened here, it's likely to happen elsewhere. So what you're really talking about is that the Big Bang is expanding both directions, and we are one direction of it. So there's a theory that everything happening this way is also happening this way, but we'll never be able to know it because this is technically back in time. If we cross over the threshold of where we are expanding from, which we couldn't because we're expanding too fast, we would be physically going backwards in time.
So wouldn't
Like,
that,
Theoretically.
so wouldn't that mean that every second that passes is technically a new dimension?
Depending on what theories you like.
No, according to that.
I'm not certain. I don't want you to like quote me on anything, but we can talk more later. That it is a really interesting theory that like there's a reflection on the other side
Would
of the
everything
bang.
be the same?
That there's a theory that says it should be. But if you look at the fact that the thing that exploded might not have been uniform, like the ball of matter, it might not be uniform, and if it didn't explode uniformly, that wouldn't hold true. But those are things that we can only theorize. We don't totally know those. All right, we got to keep rolling. So in this desert, I don't even know what to call it, but this giant ant, we have been deemed by the Ecological Society to try to figure out some angles that the lines in this desert make up. So you can see there's some ridges here that make up the lines. This one's going straight across its abdomen, up past its head. This one's going through its eyes. So we're trying to figure out some stuff about these angles. We're trying to theorize, did the aliens try to communicate something to us? Is there some secret message in these angles? So I know very little right now. Actually, the only thing I really know is this angle right here and this right angle right here. So go ahead and highlight or notate or something like that. Those are really the only two things we know. Now, based off those two things that I know, I can actually start two different relationships. Does anybody know the relationship that I could build based off either of those relationships? Easiest to start is the right angle. All right, Carolyn.
Vertical is 2y.
What's vertical with 2y?
The right angle.
And the right angle is? What's it measure?
It's 90.
So we can say,
That
set up.
2y is 90 degrees.
Yeah, 2y is 90 degrees because these are vertical to each other. So that's also why I took my blue off the one down there. This blue is vertical to that blue, so I can set them equal to each other. Brady, what do I do with that then to figure out the y?
Oh, you divided by 2.
I can divide by 2.
Yeah, 45.
And I get 45. Now, why do I care about knowing y? I hadn't even processed that.
Okay. Well,
Saul?
Because there are other Y's.
There are other y's. So this y right in here uses the same y. So we need to figure that out. Well, just set it up. 3 times, what is this called when I put something in for something else? Also, if you're at a restaurant and you say, I don't want beans, I'd rather have mac and cheese, it starts with an S. We are substituting. So I plug in the 45 where I had the y, then plus 20. So 3 times 45, well, we already know 2 times 45, right? 2 times 45 is 90.
135.
So add 45 more, and we get 135 plus 20, and this will equal 155.
That's what I meant.
So if this angle now, I'm told, measures 155 degrees, sorry you can't really see the green from your perspective, but you got it. Then how could I use that information to figure out angle 3? Ooh, that color like matches.
Wait, what is that angle at 3y?
This is 155 because we calculated it right out here. So Acacia, can you tell me what relationship this 155 and angle 3 have with each other? Yeah, but if we talk about angular relationships, we had like complementary, supplementary, vertical, adjacent, all those different things. What would help us calculate it? So if we look at, I'm trying to get a better color here. If we look at this
This would have been one of
together.
the pictures where it's nice if it wasn't dark.
Yeah, sorry, I could have lightened the print, but I
It's
sent them
okay.
off to the copy center. So
It's a
what do we know about that whole angle since it follows this straight line?
it's 180.
It's 180. Talking with Acacia. So how can I use the relationship of 155 and angle 3 to figure out angle 3? What do we call that? They are, if they add up to 180, we call that, starts with an S. It is supplementary. It is supplementary. So Zion, since you're trying to steal this problem, what do I do with that knowledge of them being supplementary?
You let him steal it, but not me?
Chill. You steal like everybody's problems.
Okay.
What does it mean to be supplementary? Let's start there. They add to.
They're both 90 degrees.
No. That's if they're perfect supplementaries. They add up to 180. So, hold up, quit searching. You just told me everything we need. They add to 180. So we can set up 155 plus angle 3. Sorry, that is super duper bright. That'll wake you up. Add to 180. So how can I get angle 3 by itself? Atticus, if I have 155 plus angle 3 equals 180, how do I get the angle 3 by itself? I want to isolate this guy.
Wow, I can't see it.
I know, sorry. Can this work? Ooh, that works.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I want to isolate that, angle 3. What is it attached with, Atticus? What else is on the left-hand side? The 155. That value is a positive value, right? Because, I mean, angles are all positive. How do I get rid of a positive 155? Subtract it. So on both sides, we're going to subtract 155. And we could think about that up on the image as saying, take away that angle. Forget about it. Don't think about it. And when we do that, we find out, I'll write in a little bit darker, that angle 3, sorry my angle sign there was a little screwed up. Angle 3 is 25 degrees. I'm going to section this off, and this off, and that off, and capture this.
That's one of the more hard.
So we figured out angle 3. We still need to figure out angles 1 and 2. Make me feel bad. I'm sorry.
I feel bad. Who do you need?
I know. I was perusing the room. Ryan, so we already figured out angle Y. We don't need to do that again. We already figured out angle 3. We figured out all this stuff, so we can ignore all that now. Can you see any way that I can start working towards figuring out either my x or my angle 1 or my angle 2? I just started that sentence by saying Ryan, meaning I'm directing that question at someone.
At least I didn't blurt it out.
I appreciate that. I really. So, and that's a really open question. That's really tough to think about at first. So let me center your thinking. Up here, one important thing that they tell us, these angles are equal to each other. Well, that's great, except I don't know anything about angle x. So I need to know something about angle x before I can figure out anything about angles 1 and 2. So if we go to the other place that I see angle x, do you see any relationship that we could talk about involving that x minus 8? So Ryan, if I draw this, it might help you. If I make this arc and this arc, why are they the same? What relationship do they have? We call that, they're opposite each other, starts with a V. Vertical angles. So we use that to set up that x minus 8 is going to equal the 86. Does anybody have questions on how we set that up? We recognize they're opposite from each other. They share the two straight lines. Yeah, Derek?
I really don't know how what a vertical angle is.
So, this, and if you want to like play with it, you can. Just please don't make helicopters. Because then you might take off and fly away. So, vertical angles are a base principle of two lines intersecting. So, and actually, I'll make it bigger for you guys. By the way, the ukulele, the Phoenix ukulele, now has a name. His name is Benedict Cucumber. Benny Q for short. So, I have two straight lines, right? My yardstick's two straight lines. If I cross them like this, I can make a pretty good 90-degree intersection depending on how careful I am. But if I start right like this and I start opening my angles, look at my left and my right angles together, or my top and my bottom together. What happens as I make one angle bigger on the side?
They get bigger together.
The other angle gets bigger on the side. At the same time, the angles on top and bottom are getting smaller, and they both get smaller together. Because if these lines stay straight, they have to follow the same rules. So these angles right here are essentially the top angle and the bottom angle, saying since these are straight lines, they have to be the same. Does that make a little bit more sense there?
I guess.
So come see me if it's at all so confusing. Hopefully we'll get to, I don't know if we'll get to it. But I want to take homework questions at some point. So if we don't get to it today, we'll get to it Monday. So let me know if you have any questions from the homework and we can continue to talk more about this stuff.
Are you still using cards or can I erase them?
I am still using cards. I lost my pen. So, Olivia, over there today, what do I do with this to get x by itself? We add 8 because this 8 has a negative value to start. That's why we add it. And we get that x is 94. I meant to bring him treats. Yeah.
So
Are you getting hung up because x is 94 and the other angle is 86? So this is where, and I'm glad you had that face, this is where do not put the degree sign on. It's gonna confuse you. Guys, it's fine as long as you can still focus. This is not saying that this angle's 94. We know this angle is 86. But what we're saying is x, the variable involved there, minus 8 will make 86. So don't let your brain say that angle is 86, or this is not 94, this is 86. X, the unknown, is 94, and where we take that to use it is right here. Because that's where just angle x is. Over here, it's not angle x, it's x minus 8. You still got a question, Bree?
no,
Oh, you want to do the next part?
Me too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I called on him first. So, what do we then do with that? You got to make a jump using some of that given information.
aren't they like vertical angles? 'Cause
What are?
the 94 and then the 1 and 2.
Ooh, so the 94 and the 1 and 2 are vertical angles. So if we look right here, we know this is 94. And what do we know about these two angles?
Since they're the same, they would the vertical angles they would have to add up to 94.
Do I know 1 or 2 yet?
No.
But I know they're the same, right? So here's always my advice. Make it easier by introducing another variable. And some people are like, why? That'll make it more confusing. Nah, hang on for just a second. If I make angle 2z and angle 1z, because they're both the same, we know they're identical, I can then set up the equation that 2 of angle z, bless you, equals what? We know more than that.
Oh, 94.
Equals 94. Anyone confused? I'm confused why my 4 looks so weird. But is anyone confused why?
Oh.
Again, I am confused.
Wait, was that supposed to be a 4?
So we get that 2z. I gotta reorient. I don't know what's going on.
Wait, was that supposed to be a power?
It's supposed to be a smart board that works.
Oh, that too.
Hey, at least that's anecdotal evidence that I can show Mr. Shurg my board is possessed.
Guys,
Oh my
the
God.
demons are coming.
Why did it likes to write its own numbers?
Maybe the aliens tried to contact us.
Ah, maybe they heard me talking about them earlier. So what we get now is that 2z is equal to 94. Is anyone confused how we did that? We know 1 and 2 are the same thing. And if they're the same thing, I can just say they're both z. Gravity works. It's okay, leave them there. Leave them there, I need them for Mark. It's okay. So, now, solve question or answer.
But
Okay.
wouldn't it just be easier to say 1 and 2 is x?
No, because we already used x. Are you saying 1 plus 2 is x?
No, I'm saying since it's vertical equal 94, and then you divide it by 2 because there are 2.
We're doing the same thing. Your thought process is just slightly different than mine, but you did the same thing.
It's 47.
Yeah, because when I come here and I say I need to cut it in half, z, I love that. So now, though, that can have a degree symbol because that's saying angle 1, guys, make sure you're getting the notes out,
Oh, I already finished.
and angle 2 will also be 47. So once we solve for that new unknown, we can solve for everything. Any questions from this image at all, aside from if it was aliens, because that's a different conversation. You know, you have a good point. So maybe aliens were trying to contact me. Has anyone ever watched the show People of Earth on TBS?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
but they-
think I
It's-
saw
but
some
they didn't
trailers.
know
It's a show about a support group for people that have been abducted by aliens.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
saw
pretty
some
funny because I believe in aliens, so I think it's really funny. Because there's this guy who just wants to be abducted, and they won't, like, that he can't get abducted. So that's like me. I would love to experience an encounter with aliens or something. So we have the same sort of thing here, and this is just, guys,
Watch us find out that
Hey.
we're gonna cover some.
if you're going to cut Saul, it's fine, but stop talking to him. I need to teach.
Okay.
This is just like a problem on your homework. Now, the thing you got to be careful with here is people can easily get confused with what angles are vertical, what angles add up to what. So before you start highlighting anything, just give me your eyeballs for a second. If I look at this line and this line, that's not a very good line. We'll adjust it a little bit. Those use my right angle, right? Green and blue make up my right angle. But then purple, actually I'll use yellow, is going to cut through it. But if I only looked at green and blue, I could make a vertical pair. If I look at green and yellow, I could make a vertical pair. If I look at yellow and blue, I could make a vertical pair. So remember, we can combine smaller angles to make bigger angles if we need. So now let's check out what we need to do. We're given that angle 1 is 46 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and arc it and label it. That's 46 degrees. We always arc it to say that we're showing the size. And you can put the arrow on the end if you want to. You don't necessarily have to. And then angle 3, I would change colors if I was you.
Wait, how do we figure out what 46?
It's given. It just tells it to me.
Okay.
Angle 3, right here, is 2x plus 6. Angle 4, again, I would change colors. They tell me is y plus 8. So I go ahead and I label and fill in all those things, because then it asks me to find the values of x and y. Ella, what do you think? How would you start this?
Oh.
Ooh, I can recognize that my red, what I've drawn up here is red and blue. Those are going to be the same thing. So we can start by doing what with those? Since they're vertical, we can... Yeah, so we set them... I just want the math word. If they're the same, mathematically we say they are equal. So we set them equal to each other. So y plus 8 is going to equal my 46. And then Ella, go ahead and figure out my y for me. What do we do? Subtract 8. And that will give me that y, not angle. This is part of your angle. This on its own already has degrees, so your y does not need degrees. This is going to be 38. Now, I can't even stop myself. I automatically put a degree symbol, but it's not degrees. That's a variable value.
But you wouldn't mark us wrong.
No, I would not mark you wrong, but the thing is, you'll confuse yourself if you overthink it, because that angle is not 38 degrees. It's 38 plus 8 degrees. And I kind of wish that wasn't green, but it kind of relates. Katie, you hiding back there? Can you see a relationship that involves the green angle, the 2x plus 6? And you can, so that is angle 3, right? Does angle 3 have a relationship with any other angle in this image? It's okay if you want to. You want to pass it off? Okay. Derek, can you see if angle 3 by, I'm going to highlight this purple. This angle right here, does it have a relationship with any other angle up here?
Does it have a relationship with 6?
How does it have a relationship? They are,
Vertical.
they're vertical, which means they're going to be
The same.
the same, right? They'll be equal. Now, that's great, except I don't know angle 6 yet.
You kind of do.
How do I figure out angle 6?
You have to. I was gonna name another relationship that would help you with.
Yeah, so we could make it vertical with the 90, but this is actually the easier way. If I can figure out this angle, then I can quickly figure out this.
I thought that it was 90. I was gonna say that angle 1 and angle 3 are gonna something.
So I got to be getting you guys out of here to go to Creative Start. Hold on, stay with me. This angle we could figure out by 90 minus 46, because together they make the right angle. So that is actually going to measure 44 degrees. So then we could say that the 44 is equal to 2x plus 6, and from there we could solve for x. You guys got to get out of here and head to Creative Start. I will see you later if you're in my Mark class or at lunch
I'm in your
or whatever. But
class.
hey, it's 8:20 and you're done with Maths for Friday. There you go. So homework over the weekend is what?
Every chapter.
Finish all chapter 8 stuff. You should all be caught up. We slowed down a little bit. 10, chapter 10. Angles, chapter 10. Angles, chapter 10. So am I.